Hey Aki Aliki-han. This week's theme I kind of jumped the gun on last week, and so I don't have quite as much to talk about, I guess. But since I talked about how I got into Harry Potter last week, I'm going to talk about how I got into the fandom this week. As I said, I read the books in middle school, but I wasn't really as involved in the fandom until about 8th or ninth grade. Around that time, I started needing kind of an escape from the horrors of middle and high school because I was really being bullied a lot because of my disability and the other things about me that are not generally accepted. Somehow it came out that I was gay and all of that. But anyway, so I was looking for a way to kind of forget all of that when I came home. And I was on several groups on MSN a long time ago when they had MSN groups. And they were all Harry Potter fan groups, but I wasn't very active in them. I ended up creating my own group a little bit after getting into that, and that's when I started becoming more involved in the Harry Potter fandom. It wasn't really hardcore, I guess, until I started falling in love with roleplay. And I created all sorts of Harry Potter roleplay characters from every house. I even have a Gryffindor. And I fell in love. And that's really what got me into the fandom, because all my friends from roleplay got me more involved with Wizard Rock and with parodies and all sorts of other things that were going on in the fandom that I had no clue about before that. Fan fiction helped a little bit with that as well, reading and writing it, which I did whenever there was a slump in roleplay. I'm not as involved with fan fiction anymore. I still read a lot of it, but I don't write any, except the story about my roleplay characters, but that's a different story entirely. So it was really roleplay and MSN groups that got me involved in the fandom. MuggleNet and the Leaky Cauldron were involved to a certain extent. I was always more of a MuggleNet girl because I found that one first, and I guess I was just more loyal to that one because it was the first major site I'd ever found about Harry Potter. And then I was on MuggleNet Interactive for years and years, role-playing there too, so that's why that one's bigger in my mind. Leaky Cauldron is awesome though, I'm not saying it's not. And then just recently we kind of sort of got involved in the Harry Potter group in the state over, because we live on the border. That's been cool. We've gone to some Wizard Rock concerts with them. We hung out with them at Infinitus last year. So it's really been in the last few years that I've become actively involved in the community, like going out and meeting other people. But I've been involved in the online community for years. I got a question last week. I got asked what my favorite chapter in all 7 books is, and that's a really hard question. It's hard enough to figure out what my favorite book from all 7 is, but my favorite chapter is, like, unnecessarily difficult. But given that Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince is one of my favorite books, between that and Deathly Hallows and Prisoner of Azkaban, I decided that I would really like a chapter from this, so I went through and looked at them all, and I think for right now I'm going to say that The House of Gaunt is my favorite chapter, because Voldemort is one of my favorite characters for the sake of characterization. He's so fascinating, like figuring out what makes him tick, and we really got to see a lot of that in Half-Blood Prince. And that was one of the major times when I was like, oh my gosh, poor Voldemort. That and the orphanage scene that they saw in this book as well. So those were really, really close. And then a bunch of the chapters in Deathly Hallows with characterization of Dumbledore and figuring out his past were up there too. But I think Voldemort's honestly more interesting than Dumbledore, though it's very, very close. So my question this week, since I talked a little bit about fan fiction, is do you read fan fiction? And if so, what is your favorite type? That can include ships, it can include crossovers, or eras or whatever. Personally, my favorite's the Founders era. I'm not really picky about ships during that era, but I do kind of like Hufflepuff Ravenclaw. I'm just saying. So, yeah. And that goes to Astra. So, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.